Good day to all of you. Today's topic of discussion is hypothalamus structure. Before we could discuss about the structure of hypothalamus, let us know the basic units of human brain. Human brain has three major parts, namely cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla, which are constituting three areas of brain. These three areas of brain are forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain comprises cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus, and the midbrain is located between the thalamus of the forebrain and pons of the hindbrain. Hindbrain comprises pons, cerebellum, and medulla. Now we are going to proceed with the topic hypothalamus. To begin with, let us learn the location of hypothalamus. It is located in the ventral diencephalon of the brain, above the midbrain and below the thalamus. It's about the size of an almond and sits directly above the brain stem at the base of the brain, below the third ventricle and above the optic chiasm and pituitary gland. The diencephalon makes the caudal part of the forebrain between the telencephalon and midbrain. The diencephalon is made up of four main components: the thalamus, the subthalamus, the hypothalamus, and the epithalamus. It is the principal autonomic center of the brain and is called as the head ganglion of the autonomic nervous system. Microscopically, the hypothalamus is composed of small nerve cells that are arranged in groups or nuclei. There are 11 major nuclei in the hypothalamus, and these nuclei send and receive fibers to other parts of the brain. For the purpose of understanding, the nuclei are divided into two groups: medial zone and the lateral zone. The picture on the slide represents the sagittal section of the brain, showing the hypothalamic nuclei. And the medial zone of the hypothalamus contains the following nuclei: part of the lateral nucleus, part of suprachiasmatic nucleus, anterior nucleus, paraventricular nucleus, dorsomedial nucleus, ventromedial nucleus, infundibular nucleus, and posterior nucleus. And this is the lateral zone nuclei, which is lying lateral to the plane of the fornix and the mammillothalamic tract. And the nuclei present in the lateral zone of the hypothalamus includes part of the preoptic nucleus, part of suprachiasmatic nucleus, lateral nucleus, tuberomammillary nucleus, lateral tubular nuclei. The nuclei such as preoptic nucleus, suprachiasmatic nucleus, and the mammillary nuclei are present in both the zones overlapping. This slide gives an overall view of the location, boundaries, and nuclei of the hypothalamus, which also gives an overall idea about the functions of the nuclei. Anterior hypothalamic nucleus, which regulates the body temperature, thermal regulation, and also stimulates parasympathetic nervous system. Distraction to this region results in hyperthermia. Paraventricular nucleus regulates water balance and stress, produces ADH and oxytocin. Distraction to this region results in diabetes insipidus. Dorsal and lateral hypothalamic area regulates water balance and stress, produces ADH and oxytocin. Posterior hypothalamic area regulates shivering, thermal regulation, and distraction causes inability to thermoregulate, stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. Dorsomedial nucleus regulates the GI tract, stimulation results in obesity and savage behavior. Ventromedial nucleus, satiety center, distraction results in obesity and savage behavior. Supraoptic nucleus regulates the water balance, and the lateral and medial preoptic nucleus regulates the blood pressure, contains sexually dimorphic nucleus, and it regulates the release of gonadotropic hormones. Hypothalamus communicates with the rest of the body via three routes: bloodstream, nervous connections, and endocrine connections. Hypothalamus receives blood mainly from the hypophyseal artery, a branch of the anterior cerebral artery. All the blood from the hypothalamus is drained into the hypothalamo-hypophyseal system of veins and distributed to the pituitary gland. From the pituitary gland, the blood is drained via the hypophyseal vein. The nervous connections can be divided into afferent and efferent fibers. Hypothalamus receives afferent fibers carrying somatic and visceral sensations as well as from special senses. The important afferents of hypothalamus are somatic and visceral afferents, visual afferents from the optic chiasm which reach the suprachiasmatic nucleus, olfactory afferents are received through medial forebrain bundle, auditory afferents, hippocampo-hypothalamic afferents which reach via fornix to mammillary bodies, tegmental fibers from the midbrain, thalamo-hypothalamic fibers from midline and dorsomedial nuclei of the thalamus, amygdalo-hypothalamic fibers from the amygdaloid complex reaching the hypothalamus via stria terminalis. The efferent connections of hypothalamic nuclei are also complex and numerous. Here we are going to mention some important connections. The hypothalamic nuclei send efferent fibers to nuclei present in the brainstem and spinal cord. In this way, they control the autonomic nervous system. Mammillothalamic tract, and this tract consists of fibers arising in the mammillary body and terminating in the anterior nucleus of thalamus. Mammillotegmental tract. These fibers terminate in the reticular formation present in the tegmentum of the midbrain. The nuclei in the hypothalamus also send efferent fibers to the various nuclei of the limbic system. Endocrine connections. Hypothalamus uses the bloodstream to communicate with the pituitary gland. These connections of the hypothalamus are called the bloodstream or endocrine connections. The cells of the pituitary gland release hormones in response to the regulating factors or hormone released by the thalamus. These regulatory factors reach the pituitary gland via the hypophyseal portal system of the veins. This is a brief description about the hypothalamus structure. Thank you all.